We thank all the panelists for their contribution to this important discussion. We now move on to our second panel, Research for Impact, Empowering Civil Society. It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator, Mr. Frank Geary. He is a Director of Scholars at Risk Europe, the European Office of the Global Scholars at Risk Network, hosted at Maine University in Ireland. Scholars at Risk Europe is the coordinator partner of the Inspireurope Plus project. Frank has built a career dedicated to civil society, human rights, education, and culture. He was director of IDEA, or it's IDEA, Ireland's National Network for Global Citizenship Education. At Penn International, he supported the development of networks and programs for human rights and freedom of expression in over 70 countries. Frank has advocated for education and civil society to the United Nations, European Union, and national governments. Mr. Geary, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? Is that working? Great. So the first thing I will do while I introduce this panel is I will just invite the panelists to join me here at the table. So our panelists are Liz Awad, Mursal Dawodi, and Egemen Özbek. So welcome, please join us. So this panel and this discussion really focuses, as has the previous panel, on the overall focus for this forum, which is on connecting sectors. It's on bringing together key stakeholders to identify opportunities, address challenges, explore innovative solutions around integration for researchers at risk into broader professional landscapes. This panel in particular will focus on research and civil society. And in doing that, we hope in our conversation, and I have no doubt with the wonderful panelists that we have here, that we'll look at questions around research as a catalyst for addressing social challenges, for fostering positive social change, for empowering communities. And our speakers will share some experiences, their experiences in bridging these gaps between academia and civil society and the diverse ways in which research can inform and support social change. Within that, there are questions around the role of research in addressing pressing social issues, effective collaboration strategies between research and civil society, the role of networks in driving social change, and the diverse career paths available to researchers committed to social impact, very much following on from some of the conversation that we've just heard in the first panel. The key point, or a key point here, is that there are multiple possibilities for engagement between civil society and researchers at risk. And this panel hopes to highlight some of these. And we're very fortunate to have a panel who, through their own personal and professional experiences, illustrate this fascinating range of possibilities. I'll now introduce the panels. I will read through the biographies, and then we will move through some questions, and there will be time for you to ask questions as well. So please bear that in mind, and perhaps think about possibilities for collaboration or possibilities for working together that this discussion stimulates in your own thinking. So I will begin by introducing Liz Awad. So Liz is a former laureate of the PAUSE program. She has defended her thesis in business management in October 2024 in CNAM Paris under the supervision of Marie-Astrid Letulle and Mathilde Rival. She left Lebanon in 2021 to pursue research on corruption. and her thesis is entitled Stories of Civil Resistance to Crises in Lebanon, Public Management, Parrhesia, and Moral and Entrepreneurship. In 2025, she received the Anticore Ethics Award in the research category. To my left, we have Mursal Dawodi. Mursal is a computer scientist and AI researcher focusing on natural language processing. Dr. Dawodi is a PAUSE alumni and received the 2023 L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Special Prize, which was referred to in the previous panel. She is also a high-impact ambassador for women in data science and an ambassador for Google Women Tech Makers. She is currently a PSI Scientist Fellow at the Technical University of Munich. She is known for her advocacy for displaced women in STEM and mentors young scholars, particularly in Afghanistan. And she is the founder of FemsTech, which is a non-profit organization supporting women in technology. And then I will move to Egemen Özbek. Egemen is the academic coordinator of Academy in Exile at TU Dortmund, where he supports scholars, journalists, and cultural practitioners at risk to continue their work in Germany. He's also a researcher specializing in the politics of memory, with a particular emphasis on the Armenian genocide and commemorations. So, to begin with, I will ask the panel to share a little bit about yourself, your story, your work. Each of you brings a unique and invaluable perspective on this question and to this discussion, drawing on your, as we can hear from those short biographies, extremely rich personal and professional journeys. So I will ask each panelist in turn to tell us a little bit about your story and your work. So I will begin, as I did with the bios, with Liz. Liz, you have, as mentioned, successfully defended a thesis exploring the impact of corruption in daily life in Lebanon and forms of civil resistance, notably collaborating with specialized NGOs in terms of our discussion here today, and also recognized with the Ethics Prize from the Anticore Association, work that questions the voice and place of the researcher faced with societal crises. So please tell us a bit about your work and your story and how it relates to.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everyone. I'm so honored to be with you today. I would like to start by telling you my personal story. I left Lebanon in July 2021 to conduct a research on corruption to Lebanon. But at the beginning of 2019, I was working on the integration of Syrian refugees into Lebanese public schools. But at the end of 2019, multiple crises erupted in Lebanon, and our lives turned upside down. So I adapted my research to what's going on around me. So I started working on the different forms of resistance to corruption in Lebanon, because the corruption is at the root of the country's collapse. And it has become a mentality, a culture, and a norm in Lebanon. So I analyzed the resistance to corruption through writing, through art, and through law. And at the heart of my experience about the role of the research on our society, on our life, that we have to accept and admit that research, first of all, should start from ourselves. We have to accept that we change, then we think about changing others around us, and then society at large. This is what I experienced, and I do believe in this. And my experience changed, Frank, a lot me. First of all, it changed the way I conduct research, the way I write research, and the way I present research. So first of all, my experience transformed me and gave me a voice. From a woman confined to its kitchen to being a woman researcher, a researcher woman who dared to speak, who dared to say stop to corruption, and who felt a beer witness what's going on its daily life consumed by corruption. And my research, my thesis gave me a voice and a place where I can think free, act free, and write free. For me, my research, it empowers me. It really empowers me. Second, because I visited a lot the Syrian refugee camps in Lebanon, and those visits helped me to break free with prejudice. Actually, my multiple visits to the camps and the photos and videos I took helped me to take the time to listen, to observe, and to understand the people I met in the camps. And I discovered that I had been living in a society where I am, and whole society, but not only me, we are dominated by politics, by religion, and by many prejudices. And then that I have, like my society, I usually deny the suffering of the people around me because they have different religion, because they have different nationality, because they have a different background. So we used to deny their suffering and sometimes to deny their humanity. And I discovered through my research that this ban is very, very violent. But my research opened my eyes. And helped me to see the reality of people around me. And I discovered that the role of research is not only to generate knowledge, but it transforms our ethics. It makes us more ethical, more sensitive, and more human. I would like just to share the photo of Ayman, the kid that I met in the refugee camps, and my brother is a photographer. He took the photo and we left. But to tell you the truth, during the camp when I met him face to face, I didn't see him. I don't know why, but I took the time to see him and understand what he is going through the photo. This is why I love to share this photo with you. But my research helped me to move from researching others to reflexivity, because during my conversations with women in the camps, I discovered a simple but a profound truth that we share many problems. Actually, the lack of milk, lack of oil, lack of flour, inflation. They want to leave Lebanon, so we do. They are afraid of another war in Lebanon, so do we. Also are afraid of this, and they are dominated by corruption, so we do. So at this time, I told myself, before I study others and refugees in Lebanon, I have to see what's going on in my life. So I did, and when I did, I discovered that my daily life is eaten away by corruption. Corruption is everywhere, not only outside me, but also inside, in my plate, in my food, in my home, and even in my thoughts. And at that moment, I decided to say, stop to corruption, no more silence, and I decided to contribute to my society through my research and to write, and this is how my writing became an act of resistance. I would like to, one more idea, can I? Yes. Okay, and to conclude with my personal experience, I discovered what concretely means that research should be connected to his society and to have impact. I discovered that to do this, we have to start by the way we write our researches, because our thesis and the research should be accessible for everyone, written in a free way and non-standardized style, so we can carry the voice of the civil society. So I rebelled against standardized academic writing, because I wanted to write with my anger, with my emotions, and with truth, and I didn't want to filter, nor embellish, nor standardize my voice. Can I share a text, Frank, or I took too many times?
Sure, no.
Okay, so I would like to share a text from my thesis with you. When people take their own lives because of money, what can we do? When we are afraid to walk the streets, fearing stray bullets, what can we do? When we are ruled by leaders who never miss a chance to steal public funds, what can we do? When there are 9 exchange rates in one country, what does that mean? When we spend our evenings by candlelight in 2020, what does that mean? When we receive suitcases full of medicine from abroad, what does that mean? When I buy medicine on the black market and find it's just water and salt, what does that mean? When we store jugs of gasoline at home, what does that mean? When a friend sells his kidney to repay a debt, what does that mean? When an Ethiopian domestic worker is found hanging in her employer's home, what does that mean? When I no longer trust the hospital, the school, the courts, the police, or the law, what does that mean? When we have to carry a weapon just to step outside, what does that mean? And actually, I wanted also to not only to write differently my research, but also to present it differently. So when I present my research during conferences, I prepare research films out of photos and videos I took in Lebanon and the camps. And this way of presenting my research allowed me to present my work outside the academic world, so I can share a film with my family, with my friends, and with everyone. Just to conclude, I would like to tell that my research learned me that I became more committed and reflexive and more ethical in my research. And I learned I have to accept that research transforms not only society, ourselves also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. And I think that's a really strong and powerful example of how engagement with civil society both transforms research and transforms civil society. So it's very compelling. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn now to Mursal. So Mursal, as we mentioned earlier, in addition to being a postdoctorate researcher in intelligence system engineering and a laureate of the PAUSE and PSI programs and a recipient of the L'Oréal Foundation UNESCO Prize, you've founded the organization FemsTech, and your dedication to tech education for Afghan women through FemsTech really underscores this point about the power of networks in driving positive change. So it would be great if you can tell us a bit about your experience, your work, your story, and perhaps to how that has changed your approach to research and to engagement in civil society.
Thank you, Frank. It's my honor that I'm today here and speak in front of you all. I was assistant professor at the Kabul University, Kabul Polytechnic University in Afghanistan, before the regime change in Afghanistan. So when the regime changed in Afghanistan, I just lost my hope, and there was no place for me to grow, to work, and to help my people. Therefore, I had to migrate, and I had to restart my life from scratch in somewhere else. And I am really thankful for the PAUSE and PSI program, and I am lucky that I'm the laureate of both programs. So I started my life here in Europe. And at that time, I had a baby, and also I was waiting for another baby. And it was really a stressful situation for me, because I just was seeing my future black in Europe, because I thought that there is no place for my growth. But luckily, I won the special tribute from L'Oréal UNESCO, and it gave me the hope for my future. And I'm really happy that today I'm also a postdoctoral researcher at the Technical University of Munich in Germany. So behind of my every success was the sacrifice of my mother. She stands against the society. It's not good to say, but it's the reality, even though she stands sometimes against my father, because the situation in Afghanistan was somehow difficult for the women there to educate and to work, especially in the environments where it's hybrid and women and men work together. It's so sad that they are now alone and they are sick and old, but they learned me to sacrifice for people, for humanity. And that's why I founded FemsTech. It's an organization that empowers women and youth, particularly women in underrepresented regions like Afghanistan. Everyone knows now that the women in Afghanistan cannot educate higher than grade 6 of school, and they are not allowed to go to universities. So I was just thinking, how can I help them? It's not a solution to bring all of them outside of Afghanistan, because there are millions. And also, most of them want to have job. They, for example, are graduated from universities, but they don't have job. So I was just thinking, how can I help them? So I came to a solution that I can help them through tech education. Why? Because if for example, we establish an online school, it will take so long time for them to graduate from school. Then it needs more efforts for them to join to some universities, even though online universities, and to graduate. It takes many years of their lives. But by tech education, they can just obtain some certifications, and there are many tech industries that offer online jobs. They can work as a freelancer, and they can obtain money to survive their families. You know that many families in Afghanistan don't have any man for them to work, because there were decades of war in Afghanistan, and we lost many men, many fathers, many brothers. So but we don't only focus on tech education and FemsTech, we also working on empowerment of youth and women in different areas like English skills education and also leadership. And we also working on storytelling, and we are organizing some podcasts and empower chats to just represent for the women in Afghanistan that they are not alone. There were many women that faced these challenges, but now they are successful. So to become successful and to obtain our goals, we may see the hardship. And we should pass this hardship moment. As I said, we are organizing both online workshops and also online courses, bootcamps, and also we are contacting with some courses in Afghanistan. We paid for the fee of the girls, and we just encourage girls to go to those courses for education. For example, we had, can you show the next picture? For example, we contacted with some courses that are open in Afghanistan to have English skills proficiency courses for girls. And fortunately, many girls are graduated from that program. And because of lack of budget, we only could be able to support some of them to have TOEFL exams. We booked the TOEFL examination program for them and paid for that. And the results showed that they were really talented girls. For example, as a success story, I can tell about Masuma Atai. The next picture, she obtained. We supported her TOEFL examination fee, and she could get more than 100 TOEFL examination. And now we introduced her to Thailand scholarship to pursue her bachelor degree. And another story I can tell about Ruqya. She just contacted me through FemsTech email and asked me to support her because she wanted to do TOEFL examination, but she didn't have money. So we we paid the TOEFL examination fee, and after we obtained her good grade, we were contacted with many universities to help her to continue her education. So hopefully we could success, and one university in Malaysia accepted her as a bachelor student, and now Ruqya is in Malaysia, and she is pursuing her bachelor degree in nursing. So it was just my story, and I think.
Thank you very much, Mursal, and thank you for sharing this story with us, and also for drawing out that connection between your research and your focus on tech and the way that you have created a civil society network and organization from those roots. So thank you. It's again a really powerful illustration of what we're speaking about here. I will turn now to Egemen. Egemen, with your experience as academic director of Academy in Exile, a network supporting scholars, cultural producers, and others who are threatened for their academic and other work. This illustrates another facet of connections between research and civil society impact. So it would be great if you can tell us some more about that.
Thank you so much, Frank, for the introduction and for the great question. And I would like to thank Laura, Marion, and the PAUSE team for inviting me, as well as the Inspire Europe network for having me here today. And I apologize for my terrible voice. I'm recovering from something, so I don't sound well. Yes, I will begin with my personal story, and I will tie it to how I end up working at Academy in Exile to make the connection between the civil society. And as Frank mentioned in the introduction, I studied the Armenian genocide commemorations in Turkey. In two human rights organizations in Turkey started to organize Armenian genocide commemorations on the April 24th, starting in 2010. So I was doing my PhD back in Canada back then, and with my supervisor, we made a decision that if I accept to live outside of Turkey or not to have a professional career in Turkey, she agreed me to write on this topic. And with that decision, I started to study Armenian genocide. So each year I flew to Turkey and I participated in the Armenian genocide commemorations organized by these NGOs. So I was participant observation. I was also part of the group commemorators who asked Turkish government to recognize and commemorate the Armenian genocide. So that in that regard, I was working very closely with these two human rights organizations in developing these commemorative events, actually, and I was also interviewing and documenting the events themselves. So that was my PhD dissertation. So for me, the boundary between research and demands for social change or social transformation has always been very thin one, so it took me too long to jump from a scholarship perspective to a more like a civil society or civic engagement sphere. So that's my background, and with that, when in 2017, Professor Kadar Konuk mentioned me that there would be a job at the Academy in Exile, and I applied, and I was successful, so that I saw this jump from my research background to Academy in Exile is only a natural progression of my investment in demanding change or protecting people who are demanding change. So that's how I end up working at Academy in Exile. Academy in Exile was established in 2017, first of all, as a response of the plight of the Turkish academics who signed a peace petition, more than 2,000 of them, and they were targeted by the Turkish government, and many of them lost their jobs and they had to go to exile. So that's the foundation of the Academy in Exile. So we were able to respond to that crisis moment, and Professor Kadar Konuk, Professor Vanessa Agnew were able to took the initiative and established Academy in Exile as a joint initiative of the University of Duisburg-Essen, the Institute for Advanced Studies in the Humanities in Essen, and also the Forum Transregionale Studien Berlin. So these three organizations get together and established Academy in Exile to support scholars at risk. So that's from the very beginning, actually, Academy in Exile is also at the borderline of acting like an NGO itself as well. So we are also demanding social change because we are supporting scholars and cultural producers who are at risk because of their scholarship, or because of their civic engagement and demands for our advocacy for human rights, democracy, and academic freedom. So that's why we are always invested in these values from the very beginning, and we are trying to advocate and defend those principles that sustain a healthy democratic life and those who are demanding this life. So that's why our work in a nutshell. What we do very specifically, we provide fellowships to scholars and cultural producers, much like all the organizations here, like a PAUSE, Philipp Schwarz Initiative. So we provide scholarship, and we host scholars in Germany at TU Dortmund or Institute for Advanced Studies in Humanities in Essen. So they are here, they come all around the world. We supported right now in total 82 fellows from 20 different countries. But we work with scholars in the fields of the humanities, social science, and law. So unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to support scholars working in the natural sciences, and we are very sorry about that, but that's our capacity. So that's what we do. We provide them a safe space to pursue their research independently, so it's their own research proposal, and we support them with all the background and the research infrastructure so that they can continue. But also, in addition to protecting and defending or saving people, just like what PAUSE doing is like a sauvons une vie and sauvons des idées. So we're also protecting not only people, but we're also protecting or defending threatened knowledge or knowledge traditions. Because just like in my case, like studying Armenian genocide is also what is the minister, what he said is like an inconvenient knowledge. So I'm one of the producers of inconvenient knowledge myself, but I made the decision to stay out of Turkey myself. So I had the luxury to choose what I'm going to do with my life. Many people in Turkey dealing with similar issues, demanding, working in similar topics, or making similar demands didn't have the choice, so they lost their job. So that's the only difference, as I see myself, and then other scholars at risk. I'm not a scholar at risk, but I could have been easily. So that's also my personal attachment to the issue. And in addition to providing them an structure or infrastructure so that they can continue their research, we encourage them to organize events. For example, one of our fellows organized an international conference on Sinti and Roma historiography. So, and in that conference, he took the lead. So he's the main organizer. I was just doing the legwork. So I just made everything possible for him, like arranged the venue and all the other logistics stuff, but he was the organizer of the conference, and he did such a great job in bringing together some of the leading research institutes or research centers dealing with the Sinti and Roma historiography in Germany or as well as in the United States, but he also brought together like a Sinti and Roma history documentation center, also a couple of NGOs working with Sinti and Roma rights in Europe, basically. So that was a great conference, a great example of how research can transcend the boundaries or engage in extramural activities and then engage with the civil society and bring them in and create a platform where these exchanges can or dialogue can happen naturally instead of doing an extractive work or like going to NGOs. Hey, what are you thinking? Okay, thank you so much, we are done. And now we are going to publish our research. He was able to incorporate them into the process. And now they are building to work, they continue to work together with these NGOs. And also we are also developing tandem teaching courses where we also we create learning materials. We interview experts in certain topics. For example, in my field, we did a course on memory and commemoration, and with that we collaborated with an NGO in Berlin who they were advocating for the street name changes. So where the street names are harkening back or putting the colonial past of Germany into pedestal, so they were working to reverse that. So we partnered with them and we were able to include them. We learned from their insight, we learned from their vision, and we were able to include that into our teaching processes and courses. So for the first round, I will leave it here. I can develop further with your questions, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egemen. And again, I think it's really interesting that your example and your story, it underlines that boundary between research and civil society changes and is changed through the kind of engagements that all three of you have illustrated. I am going to ask one kind of follow-up question to each of you, and I'd ask if you can give me maybe a 1-minute answer on this one so that we can then go out to the room for particular questions that people have. So the question is, you've spoken about your experiences, your work. Looking at it slightly more broadly, how do you think that civil society can benefit from working with researchers? And I appreciate that's a big question, so I suppose I'm asking for maybe one key thought on how civil society can benefit from working with researchers. I will start with you, Mursal, please.
I want to just say an example.
I want to just say, for an example of my work, to answer your question. For example, in FemsTech, we as researchers and as academics, we are a group of scholars that are around the world in different countries. We all work as volunteers without any salary, just with the aim of supporting women, particularly in Afghanistan. So we don't just think, we don't just organize courses, and we don't just say we will support women, for example, in this way or in this path. We are using critical thinking, we are using studying, we are using research to analyze the market, to analyze the situation in Afghanistan, to analyze the global marketplace, the high job demand. For example, what are the new technologies and new trends over the job markets and industries here. And then we organize courses and certification programs that can be best fit for them, so that at the end of the program that they can gain high impact from our work. So I think it's a really good example how the civil society can gain from the researchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mursal. And yeah, very concrete and clear, specific example, which is really useful in the conversation about this topic. Egemen, for you, the same question. You know, how can civil society benefit from working with researchers? One key thought that you have on this.
Thank you so much, Frank. I started my talk at the beginning origins of the academic exile with a reference to the Academics for Peace, and their example also is like teaching a lot to us. Right? So they become like this more than 2,000 people. They signed a petition to end state violence against the Kurds in Turkey, but then they were expelled from their jobs and they went to exile, many of them, and a lot of them stayed in Turkey without the jobs and without the prospect of teaching, actually. So, but they become an NGO or civil society organizations themselves, and they establish different solidarity networks in Turkey or outside of Turkey, and they are still sounding this voice, sounding the demand for peace in Turkey, right? So they became an NGO and a civil society actor intervening in Turkish politics, even though from outside of it, but they continue to act. So this is a huge benefit, a huge gain that the civil society is getting from these scholars, because they have like historians, political scientists, anthropologists. So they know Turkey and they know the conditions or the relationship between Turks and the Kurds in Turkey better than anybody else. So they are informing the entire civil society with their research and with their intervention. They publicize their research, they organize events. So at Academic Exile, we are trying to follow their footsteps, actually. So we try to do the similar organization with them. So the big benefit is that academic scholars bring like a contextual knowledge, critical thinking, different ways of approaching, a fresh perspective and important questions. The key to, especially in the humanities and the social sciences, everything starts with the good questions, right? So we try to bring these questions to the civil society as well. So I think the main benefits of the civil society would be these areas of approaching with issues with critical thinking, nuanced understanding of the issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egemen. And again, a really interesting example and that connection between knowledge and action when it comes to civil society work. So Liz, turning to you with the same question, how can civil society benefit from working with researchers? A key thought that you have on this?
Key thought about this, Frank, is about the presence of researchers in NGOs, which means, because I lived in Lebanon in a village at the Syrian borders, and because in Lebanon we live in a permanent crisis, all the time we have crisis, so we have the presence also of the NGOs is extensive. We always have NGOs working specifically on my region. And after my experience as a researcher, because I witnessed also how the NGOs at floor in my region worked, I think that researchers have too much to do at the fieldwork with the NGOs. I think that this is a gap to be filled, since when I did my research in France, I did the link with everything I saw at the borders, with the refugees, at vulnerable people in my village, and all this. And I did, yes, researchers, they are very precious in those kind of situations. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Liz, and that's a really interesting, that gap that you point to, I think I would hope kind of a fertile area for everyone in this room to be thinking about and exploring. We have time to take maybe one or two quick questions, and so I would ask if anyone has a question, please keep your remarks just brief, and then we can go back to the panel. Are there any questions at this point? And of course, feel free during the break. We have one question at the back here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate for this forum discussion, especially it's very inspiring when we hear from our colleagues how they are just trying to integrate the civil society impact with the research. I just have one question for Mursal. It's very inspiring that you are trying to inspire the women from Afghanistan, and you just try to provide an opportunity to study their bachelor. But how do you manage if there's a rule that the women in Afghanistan should study until grade 6? So how do you manage the challenges that they could face if they are maybe if the government or if they just heard about they are studying online? Do they, I'm just thinking if they could face some challenges while they are studying in the online. So how do you manage, or how do the women, girls in Afghanistan cope up studying their online education? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that question. I'm not seeing any other questions coming, but I know we will have a lunch that there will be opportunities to speak with all of the panel at lunch. So, Mursal, on that question, I will turn to you.
Thank you for your question. The good point is that we cannot ban internet, and we can limit it, but we cannot ban internet. And until this time, the government allows girls to study online because they cannot ban it. Maybe in the future, yes, it became a problem for them. But till now, there are many organizations that organize some programs for girls in Afghanistan. I know some universities in Europe that offer bachelor and master courses for students in Afghanistan, and they are participating. But the challenge is currently their access, because the electricity is limited in Afghanistan. Also, they don't have access with the good fast internet connection. This is the problem. And you know that they cannot go to libraries, they cannot go to laboratories, they can just stay at home and study. Thank you.
Thank you, Mursal. So, to wrap up, I am going to ask our panel to just share with us very briefly one lesson that you have learned on collaboration between researchers at risk and civil society. So if there were one lesson, what would it be? And yeah, so if you could just briefly summarize. Let's start with you, Egemen, this time.
Thank you so much, Frank. What I learned is the equal partnership, or co-ownership of any project that we can generate with the NGOs. Like researchers and the NGO representatives should be equal partners. So this should be from the very beginning of any project, of any collaborative endeavor. So you have to establish this relationship, like of equal partners building a project, because whatever you are working on, it could be in knowledge building base or some kind of intervention or policy intervention. It has to, both parties have to have the ownership of that end result, and that time it becomes more inclusive and more horizontal organization possibilities open up as well, and then it becomes relevant for way many people in different ways possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Egemen. And Liz, your one lesson to share with.
So, if I want to talk about one lesson, I've learned many lessons, endless lessons. One lesson is that we cannot change society alone. It means I'm a researcher at risk. Without the presence of PAUSE, I'm not here. Without the support of the NGO Sherpa, who welcomed me in their offices in order for me to understand how we can resist through law, I cannot resume my thesis. And without the presence of my thesis supervisor, I am not here. So my lesson is we cannot change, we cannot do research alone. We have to work hand in hand. Just to end with one positive thought, I would like to invite all scholars at risk to take a moment and to look at the beauty of the exile and at the pride of being an SAR scholar at risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. And Mursal, your one lesson that you'd like to share.
My lesson is that don't wait for big change, don't wait for big money, don't wait for big plans. Just if we start with a good objective, for example, for the society, we can be successful. If we just help one student, if we just help one human, we saved one life, and we built a good future for that life. Also, my other lesson was that it's really good for researchers to come and work with the society, not just for the society, because, for example, I had only the background in academia. I was just a teacher at the university, I was just in the laboratory and doing research, but now I have the background of leadership, I have background of project management, and background of advocacy, and that's really good for me too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that response sums up everything about this panel. Thank you so much to the three of you, Liz, Mursal, Egemen, for sharing your experiences and for leaving us with those lessons to take forward. Thank you very much.